Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. Let us know where you think you got it right and where you think we got it completely wrong. You can do that by visiting unsilentpodcast.com or Rumble in the comments section there, or various other social media channels where you can make your viewpoints known. So we're still at war. I thought it was supposed to be over by now, but maybe not.
Well, we were high-fiving and celebrating last week as if. I mean, I'm utterly surprised that things are taking longer than a few days. This is jeez.
It's almost like it's complicated, and it's not like there's just three little levers you can pull to make things happen the way you want them to happen in the world. It's like there's other things that influence stuff. It's very surprising.
It's odd to just watch the various postures of people who are in front of cameras. For one example, there's I don't know, it's a short, like 15-second clip of Trump talking about how Cuba is next, right? He says that with Mark Rubio sitting there, like, Cuba's, but just his posture is very flippant, and he kind of jokes. He's like, well, when countries take on too much of this at one time, like, bad things happen, so we're going to do it one at a time, but just very, very flippant and not representing the real stakes.
There's some serious gravity here. I mean, in all of these things, there's some serious gravity. I mean, just taking Venezuela by itself, that would have been enough for maybe at least a few months, right? You would kind of think, and then add on to that a Middle Eastern war, and then let's pivot back to. I mean, it's almost like we're trying to fill up the news hour with hemispheres, so many hemispheres that we are just popping back and forth to our correspondents. And okay, now we're East. Now back to the Mediterranean. Now, how are we doing with Dulce down in Venezuela? Anybody else we need to take over before the hour's up?
Yeah. Again, you and I talk about this pretty regularly, but the velocity of which the things are happening now is just unbelievable. Real quick before I forget this, I have a couple things saved that are some are a little less serious than others, of course. But Neil Howe, who wrote the book Fourth Turning, I heard him on a podcast 3 or 4 days ago, and whenever I see his name, I tune in. And sometimes it's more interesting than the others. If it's entertaining, of course I stay. If it's stuff I've heard before, I kind of move on. But he was talking about somebody interviewed a Washington D.C. insider who had gone through the Civil War. This person was very involved in politics in the D.C. area during the Civil War era. And after the fact, many years later, they were interviewing him, and the presumption for the interviewer was like, well, of course you saw the Civil War coming, and what were you guys doing to prepare? And he said, no, in 1861, that was not even the foggiest. We didn't have any conception that was the direction we were heading as late as 1861.
Really?
That a full all-out Civil War was brewing. He's like, we were completely not even thinking in that direction.
See, that surprises me, because I guess my viewpoint from 100 years would be that this would have been obvious to anybody in all the big issues and stuff. So that is surprising. I guess I've never even considered that it's a possibility that they might not have known that.
I hadn't. I rewound it like 3 times. I'm like, wait, did I get the date wrong? Did I what? This doesn't make any sense. How could you not have seen it coming? But that's again, he could be wrong. Obviously 100 and some years ago, but he's a historian, a demographer. Like, this is his wheelhouse.
It does. Well, but it does. Now that I've processed that for 30 seconds, it does kind of make sense when you look at the big historical events of our time. So who saw COVID coming? Who saw the 2008 GFC coming? Who saw 9/11 coming? I mean, there are people. Of course, there were people, because there's always people who who are lucky that actually, make a prediction and see something coming. But if you take a look at the bulk of humanity and the number of people that were affected by these various events, nobody saw those coming either. So I suppose that that's more the norm than it is the an exception. And then
Yeah.
pile on top of that, not only is it more the norm, but that is really scary that it is the norm that something of that, earth-shaking magnitude can really just sort of fly under the radar.
Yeah, I remember one of the very first episodes you and I did, we talked about in the 1920s, if you looked at America, let's say 1924, 27, whatever, before the big crash, but during the roaring 20s, as we
Right.
look back on it,
Yep.
there and how just like daily life of Americans at that time, no way in the world you could have foreseen what it would look like in 1947 when we're this
Right.
massive powerhouse of manufacturing and military. No way you could see that. I get that 20-year span. Like, okay, there were leaps and bounds of technological advances, and what I get that, but not seeing the Civil War coming 6 months before it happened. Like, what?
Yeah, that one does seem, yeah, that does seem surprising. I'm gonna have to process
Yeah.
that one for a while.
The other thing he said that I thought was remarkable was around that same era, like their version of like the Joint Chiefs of Staff or whatever, um, moved the office to like where was it? It was like Missouri or something like that
Hmm.
because it was so corrupt in DC. He didn't want the people being influenced by the corruption in DC. I'd never
Really?
heard that either, and I was like, "What? Wait a second, wait." And
Oh,
again, it just goes to talk about how these things are cyclical, as you and I talk about all the time,
yeah,
and I mean, I would argue the level of corruption, fraud, waste, abuse,
sure.
perverted incentives, like whatever, like that whole bucket of like it's I've never seen anything like it, or I'm just more aware of it. It could be both. I don't know which it would be, but it was just remarkable that the guy literally moved the military, like the office of like their version of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, moved it to a completely different state, like 7 states away, because he was just so worried about the corruption deterring the mission.
Well, we tend to also think about those stretches of time as being more polite and more,
Right.
people are more cognizant of basic common sense and common decency and, this type of thing, as opposed to, our day and age. But, there you go. Again, back to one of the things that we've revisited over and over and over again, and that is the unchangeable nature of humanity and of
Yeah.
when the incentives push down, push down, push down, push down, and eventually it's just Pavlovian, every person for themselves kind of scenario. And yeah, that's a kind of a scary commentary. And the thing that's scary about it is, what does that portend for us going forward 6 months or a year or 2 years?
Well, based on what's happening in the Middle East right now, I mean, I would not be surprised if this was the beginning of whatever our version of the,
Catalyst.
I don't want to say World War III. I hope cooler heads given the weapons we have at our disposal now, I hope cooler heads would prevent whatever our version of that is, though. I absolutely could see looking back on this month in particular as saying that's when it started.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. I mean, there's enough. And and the other thing I think about that makes that possibility, so much more is because, I mean, so you take the two things. You take the hubris, if you will, that says we can control all these things across the world, and the
Yeah.
fact that we can't, and that a very basic view of human history will say that you can't control, all of these things, and the speed, then, you lay on the speed at which things happen in today's day and age, which is arguably many, many times faster than in either World War II, Civil War, Revolutionary War. I mean, so the danger level is exponentially higher now than it's ever been. And so
Yeah.
that argues for that catalyst to be a likely thing, not a shoot, I hope it doesn't happen, but it's unlikely. It's more like,
Right.
looks more likely all the time.
Yeah. And what are we? I mean, we're how many days are we into the Iran thing? 12, 13 days, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay, let's just say it started around March 1st. I don't know the exact date. Let's just say it started somewhere within 3 to 5 days of March 1st.
yeah,
If you were to look back on Valentine's Day, February 14th, this wasn't even on the radar.
right, right.
Like we quote unquote obliterated Iran's nuclear thing. Like it was done last year in June or whenever that was. Like
We're on to other
we
things.
were we were still talking about Venezuela.
Yeah, we were on to other things. We were working on Venezuela, and we were blowing up drug boats in the Caribbean. Now that was kind of the
So 2 weeks prior to this mess we're in now, again, I'm not unhappy that the Ayatollahs I think they're bad people, and also I think we've stepped in a giant pile of dog crap here.
Sure. I don't doubt there's lots of people that I listen to that I don't doubt that their intentions and their reasons for doing things are good reasons. There's plenty that I think that's not true for.
Yeah,
But I think there's plenty of people, even in positions of power, whose intentions are good but I think when you have a personality that just in Trump, for instance, that can just push as hard as he pushes, and it's a fool's errand to resist that. If you're in a position of power, there you resist it in 5 minutes. Even if you're the favorite kid, you're out, you're gone.
yeah,
It's just a scenario where I think that the smartest minds don't have an ability to decipher it. I think that's
yeah.
I just don't think that there's a reasonable chance that that's going to happen. Now, I hope that's wrong. I hope they got AI on the task, and I hope AI has figured out. Well, here's all the contingencies, and the only reason we did this is because we have such great forecasting tools in artificial intelligence that we can tell anything that peaks its head above 50% of a likelihood of going to happen. But I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, based on my AI search I did today and the answer I got, I'm gonna say I hope they have something better to help save us. All right, well, we got plenty to talk about with that. I got a couple of things that I wanted that are just less weighty, less heavy topics that I think are interesting to kind of just continue painting the landscape of what it's like to live through this time for the future generations we're talking to. This is something that it caught my attention. It made me laugh because it just like I'm not sure who lies more now, the media or the politicians. Like we always knew politicians lied, but we just believed that the media were like straight shooters. And it's these little slight language games that they play that truly do, in my opinion, like shape a narrative. I know that that's a cliche thing to say, but I'll give you an example here. And by the way, I'm not saying that either of these conflicts are right or wrong. I'm taking that part out of the equation. Just listen to the wording of this. So this is from February 25th, 2022. The headline is War in Europe. Russia invades Ukraine. Okay? Got it. Now let's look at March 3rd, 2026. Israeli troops cross into Lebanon amid fears of wider war.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well,
Hey,
again, they're just like these little subtle language games that
yeah.
just like, but they completely change the meaning of the headline and shape it, you know?
Well, and so do you think, Brian, I mean, that's obvious to me, it's obvious to you. Do you think that that's obvious to most of the public?
Well, it wouldn't have been. I gotta be honest with you. I don't think it would have been obvious to me had I not had the contrast shown to me. I
Yeah.
don't think I would have caught it. I don't think I would have caught the second. The first one makes perfect sense. The second one, I don't think I would have given a second thought. I would have read it and been like, yeah, okay, that's what happened and moved on. But when I see the contrast,
Yeah.
it's crystal clear. But
Well,
without that, no.
I was just thinking about this kind of related to that earlier today. I was thinking about like so I live as you do, we live more on the right side of the equation than we do on the left side of the equation. And I was thinking about all of the turmoil in right-wing punditry in the places where you've got Ben Shapiro over here and you've got Tucker Carlson over here and you've got Megyn Kelly, you've got all these different people
Yeah.
that are arguing with each other, and every single one of them is absolutely convinced of their opinion. And I get to thinking about that, and it sort of relates to what you're saying. Um, and I got to thinking that just the facial expressions of all of these people are what makes them credible or not credible. So
Yeah.
if I would just take out the words even. So what you're talking about are the words, and I'm very much, let's dissect the words. That to me is where, the at least you can get to some level of truth if you can dissect the words a little bit. But
Yeah.
if you take a look at I'm going to pick on Tucker for a moment. His raised eyebrow, his
Yeah.
hair the way it is, the way that he raises his voice. Now you take a look at Candace Owens. I'm picking on a couple different, the way that she talks and the boldness that she talks. Now let's take over Ben Shapiro. His penetrating stare, the the influence of all of these things and all of these people, regardless of even what they're saying, drags the public along. And so that's why I
Yeah.
think my answer to the question that I just asked you is, well, do you think that somebody could look at those two headlines and really see the difference? No, I don't think they can. I don't think most people can. I mean, because
Oh, really? You don't think they can see the contrast showing side by side like I went through?
if if you show them side by side
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you paint the picture, but if you show them side by side and say there's a headline, there's a headline, no, I don't think that there's an ability to a great extent to understand cognitive dissonance and to understand the how truth is attempted to be conveyed today. So, which then, makes me very depressed because it means there's no possibility of really getting to the truth unless we get into a dissection of it like you and I do. I mean, there's just no
yeah.
possibility.
And I'm not even sure I'm very good at this because I don't think I'm very good at being objective to my biases as well as I would like. Okay, like for example, like Tucker and Ben Shapiro are great examples,
Yeah.
right? Depending on whether or not you trust Israel or
Mhm.
not, if you trust Israel and you think their intentions are good, you will believe everything Ben Shapiro says.
Mhm.
If you don't trust Israel, again, the government of Israel,
Sure.
and you think that they're probably up to something, you believe everything Tucker says. It's only because there's certain, I would argue, like for Ben Shapiro, for example, I would argue there's certain realities he just will not accept.
Sure.
And for Tucker, I would say there's certain things that it's ambiguous at best that thinks are certainties.
Mhm.
And it all fits based on which tribe you're in. And
Yeah.
again, going back to you can't ever know somebody else's intentions,
Right.
but we think we know their intentions, and that sets the predicate for the story and the facts as I'm going to relay them, and all the facial expressions and the laughter and the stern voice when in all the appropriate times all fit either camp, but you have to be on board with the belief system for it to make sense. Is that tracking?
No, 100%. That's exactly it. And that's why yes, that's exactly the point. Because wherever the predisposition that we come at it, and there is no person on earth that doesn't come at almost every question with a set of presuppositions, not even
Yeah.
predispositions, presuppositions. Here are the things that I presuppose to be true, regardless of whatever else you say. These are the things that I presuppose to be true. That you in any debate is going to be like that. You could take the debate between atheists and theists, between religious people and non-religious people, and
Yeah.
it all comes back to the presuppositions that you come at it. Same thing's true with all of these people. So then my interest is then, and I realize I'm the same way because you can't get away from being a human being. This is back to one of our
Right.
principles here on.
You're pretty close to a robot in a lot of ways, though.
Well,
So you get
I
a leg
try
up
to
on
be.
most of us.
I try to be. I try to be like Spock if I can, to the greatest extent possible. I try to
Right, right, right.
be dispassionate, but even Spock had his predispositions. So,
Yeah.
but if you come at everything and say, okay, I'm going to actively attempt to disbelieve something that somebody who I normally will believe says, so that I can determine whether or not their logic is good or not. In other words, I want to come at it. I want to the best that I can muster, come at it from the perspective of I want to find where you're wrong. So what
Yeah.
last week you and I we didn't really disagree very much, but we kind of bantered back and forth. And I said to you at the end of that, I said, look, I like that. I like disagreeing with people that I normally agree with and I normally like because it's a way for me to test my own presuppositions and disposition. I like arguing with people that I like the most, the
Yeah.
best.
Sure.
So, because to me, that's the only way because ultimately I really do want to get to whatever, as much as I can, the truth, right? To the
Right.
extent possible. But you can never do that within your tribal boxes. It's impossible.
Yeah. And I think that the unfortunate reality is many of these things you can only learn somebody's intention after the fact in many
Yes,
cases,
that's right.
right?
Yep.
And that again, the intentionality is what drives a lot of this. Where I think you and I probably the biggest thing you and I disagree on, if you even want to call it a disagreement, I don't know if I would phrase it that way. I did last week, but I'm not sure I would now that I've had some time to think about it. I used to like I used to be rock solid, like, yeah, Israel's like their intentions are good. Everything they do is like it's for the good, and like they were the victims. I understand their origin story, and I get all that. But now I'm like, yeah, but yeah, there's some things that are
Sure.
and some of the people in power, they've said some things that indicate that maybe their interests aren't good. They're more empirical or whatever it is. And so I have shifted on that. And I think that's the crux of I've been thinking about this since last week. That's the crux of our disagreement, for lack of a better term, is I'm way more skeptical now than I was 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 16 years ago
Sure.
of their intentions. And so the question comes though, is that driving my interest in certain content I consume,
Sure.
or is the content I consume now furthering my belief on that? Is it the chicken or the egg? And I don't know the answer to that. I
Well,
know that there's certain people I tune out that I used to listen to Ben Shapiro a lot, and I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, but you say some things that are very hard line on things that are kind of squishy topics, and I don't accept that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think the safe position then is don't believe anybody.
I I don't want to fall in that camp, but man, I'm getting there.
Well, no, but if you have a healthy, if you have so everything you said, for instance, about Israel a few minutes ago, I can 100% buy into. So I can say, I'll give you an example. Let's take the poster boy, Bibi Netanyahu, right?
Yeah.
I can, in the exact same moment, I can accept that that he is a good wartime leader of Israel for their benefit, and he's also done nefarious things to
Yep.
forward and to protect his own political career. Because the moment he is out of office, he's probably in deep doo doo, and he
Yeah.
would go to jail because that's what happens over there. I can accept.
I was going to bring that up as the exact example in this context. I did not know that a month ago. Probably, I did not know that he would be prosecuted as soon as he doesn't have the protections of his
Yeah,
role, his title, his office. Forgive
right.
me. Um, he's got serious corruption charges he's
Yeah,
facing. I didn't know that a month ago. Right.
sure,
I probably have heard that in the last 10 years and just dismissed it because I was political nonsense and just dismissed it because I
sure.
believe that their intentions were good back then. And
Right.
so I probably heard that 500 times, just rolled over it. I heard it 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. And I'm like, wait a second, you're telling me that a mechanism, not the mechanism, but a mechanism for him to keep his immunity is to retain power,
Yeah.
and a mechanism to retain power is to have a conflict.
Yes.
Huh. Well, I got to factor that in now.
Totally, totally. And see, I guess this is where maybe I'm just more cynical than you are, Brian, because I can
I think
accept
you're more
both,
optimistic than I am.
or maybe
I honestly, I think you have, I think in this specific instance, you are giving them the benefit of the doubt in areas that I'm not willing to, which means I'm more cynical than you are.
yeah, well, that could be. Yeah. Well, but you see how I can see both of those things being simultaneously true, and I can see both of those things being a rather common thing for leaders across the world,
Yep,
across history.
100%.
I mean, there are certain ones. I mean, the more I learn about Abraham Lincoln, so I revere Abraham Lincoln. Is close to a
Yeah,
political
yeah,
figure as I can come. That's where Abraham
100%. Yep.
but there were absolutely, the suspension of habeas corpus. There are things that he did that were clearly illegal, clearly wrong.
Yeah.
And if he wouldn't have been assassinated, would he have come across, would he have come up against other things later on? Take a look, another more practical example for not more practical, but closer to home, JFK. JFK
Yep.
was simultaneously a great statesman, really good on part of Cuba, but obviously not Bay of Pigs. And he was a schmuck when it came to women and to,
Yeah.
so I guess in my mind,
Their family's mafia ties. I mean, there's plenty of there.
I mean, so and that's the case, I think, with so many people. I think that, and if we could have a general awakening among the public to the reality of human nature, that's what I hope that people get out of some of our conversations
Yeah.
is an awakening to human nature to say that this person could be, FDR, another practical example. FDR was the right guy for World War II, great wartime president. And doggone it, if that guy wouldn't have been there, he could have been a Stalinist, you know.
Yep.
And I have no problem. To me, it's not cognitive dissonance to say both of those things in the same sentence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I would argue that we collectively learn this lesson through the process of the fourth turning. Meaning,
sure.
Mark Twain has a famous saying, "It's easier to fool a man than to convince a man he's been fooled." Okay,
Yes.
we're all in our tribes. We
Yep.
all have our beliefs that we have absolute certainty on. And I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I believe as humans we crave certainty more than being factually correct.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
think through the process of the fourth turning, we all find out we were all full of shit the whole time, just about different things.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, and then the beauty of it is we can go back to our comfortable space and say that was true back then, but fortunately
Yeah.
it's that now,
Yeah,
right?
now we have these technological advancements. That was 60 years ago. When we look how much we've evolved since then. And the funny thing is, I've been the podcast series I'm listening to now is it goes through the entire Roman Empire from like
Yeah.
750 BC to like 750 AD. Like it covers the whole thing. And I'm right in the thick of Julius Caesar right now.
Ah, yes.
He was in the same boat essentially as Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He was
Yes.
not welcome at home. He had to go fight the Gauls for like 3 years to stay out of the city because he was
Yeah,
going to be arrested.
just to get the heck out of Dodge. Exactly. No, exactly right. No, it's true.
Yeah. All right. Anyhow, I got a couple of things that are not about war. We'll come back to the Iran thing in a minute here, or whatever else you got as well. Um, with with Congress, there's a couple of things that they're doing that are completely on brand for Congress. Um,
Okay.
one of those is so the one of the narratives out there right now is there's these 80-20 issues, these things that the populace 80% want a thing,
Yeah.
right? The Epstein files would be a good example. 80% plus of people want the Epstein files released. We're grown ups, we can handle it. Screw your sources and methods nonsense, like or the JFK assassination. It's been 60 years. Screw your sources and methods nonsense. Release it all. We're grown ups, we can handle it. That kind of thing, right? Congress just voted 357 to 65 to block the release of congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports.
Oh, I didn't hear that. But you're right. That's on brand. That's absolutely on brand. Yeah. No, that's
Okay. So I don't know. I would argue that's probably a 97.3 topic as far as the people wanting that out, right?
99.5 to point 0.5. Yes, exactly. Oh,
So 357 out of whatever 425 people like, nope, we're not doing that. Okay.
yeah.
The Save Act. It's like 84%, I think, if I have the numbers correct, of people want voter ID
Mhm.
as a baseline expectation. Like, okay, yeah, we're welcoming of immigrants, and that's fantastic, but you have to be a citizen to just determine the fate of our country if that's in fact what voting does, right?
Yes.
Um, they won't even bring it to the floor. Like
Right.
they're dicking around with this for what 4 or 5 months now. Like, and this one lady, she said it like really really well. Oh shoot. Did I put it in the wrong spot? I must have put it in the wrong spot because I was gonna read it. It's just some random lady. It wasn't even like a famous person. Man, I think I must have saved it in the wrong spot because I don't see it now. But essentially she was saying, like, how low have we gotten where we have to grovel these people in Congress for the most basic thing,
Right.
which is the people who live here legally as citizens and pay their taxes and do all the things
Yeah.
get to have some say in how, like, this is the most basic fundamental thing. This is the lowest bar you could have to request of Congress, and they're fighting us on even this. I was like, you know
Exactly.
what, that's spot on.
No, that's it's exactly spot on, and it also goes to our desire to have somebody else run our lives for us, that the public isn't just marching with pitchforks. I mean, why isn't the
Yeah.
public marching with pitchforks about both of those ones you just brought up? Because we want somebody to run our lives for us.
Well, that, and I would argue that citizens, by and large, got things to do. Like, you got a
Sure.
mortgage to pay, you got groceries to buy,
Gotta go to
you
work.
got kids to go watch t-ball, play t-ball, or like you got like this. We shouldn't have to have pitchforks to get
We
a,
shouldn't have to,
a
but yeah,
basic semblance of like legal voting. Is that like, come on?
yep, exactly right. No, that's
So I thought that was pretty remarkable. Um, I had this thought. It was kind of sort of related to the war. I'm not even sure I understand this exactly. Is there some kind of government shutdown going on right now? Like the Department of Homeland Security is not currently being funded. Is that correct?
it's Homeland Security is not being funded. It's this little, at least we've got our government shutdown, so it's so narrow that, three guys that stand at the gate don't get paid. That's all it is. Yeah.
Okay, but these are the people who, like, if there were sleeper cells in the U.S., like, these are the people who would. Okay, so I've heard all kinds of arguments from both tribes. One about how could they do this at a time of war? Like, just shut up and fund the thing. And then the other side is like, how could you go to war when we aren't even funding the Department of Homeland Security? And I kind of had this thought, which is not probably even close to a good analogy, but let's say I wanted to go on a road trip, and my wife had driven our car before me, and she blew out the tire, like she ran into a curb or something like that, and like blew out the tire. You couldn't repair it, and then I decided to take that car on a road trip with the flat tire. Whose fault is it for whatever damage comes from the flat tire?
Well, yeah, right.
One tribe is saying it's her, and the other tribe is saying it's me. And I would argue if I knew there was a flat tire, it'd be on me to not take that car on a road trip.
Yeah,
Kind of like, if we don't even have a homeland security, is that really the time to go pick a fight with it, Iran?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, and are there? Is there any practical, I mean, is there any practical explanation of any of that? Is I guess why I just shake my head, because all of that, everything you said is exactly right. Because, right, and we do have information, or people say there, I don't know this, but people say there's information that there are sleeper cells. There was that, report just like yesterday, the day before, about some signal going out that they couldn't identify, that was apparently from Iran to activate, and they think it might be to activate sleeper cells across the U.S. and Europe. And I mean, we saw the one, well, we saw the one. In what was that, in New York? Yeah, in New York, where those two kids were out enjoying a sunny day, and they happened to have IEDs with them, and they threw them at the white supremacist
Yeah.
protesters with,
Well, there was also the guy in Austin, but he was kind of a lone wolf, it sounds like. But I remember you and I, again, very early on when we started recording these weekly episodes, you and I broke down the math of how many people had come across in the
yes,
Biden years illegally, and if only 1/100th of, or 1/10 of 1%, like, you and I broke down the math, it was like several thousand, tens of thousands of people who could be here, and like, if only 1% of the illegal people who came
yeah.
over during that mass thing, it's like 10, 20,000 people.
Well, sure, they could do
You
real
could do a
damage.
lot of damage with that.
Yeah, they could do absolutely. They could do real damage. And the question is it going to happen? Yeah, no, that's exactly another. And you would hope that there would be Homeland Security would be on the ball with that. But there you go. We got
Yeah.
a government shutdown.
Yeah. And then the last thing, I made myself a note. I don't know who coined this phrase. Oh, maybe you can. Here's how the guy's name is spelled: It's an old name, like 2,000 years ago kind of name. Aeschylus. Aeschylus. I don't
Yeah,
know who that is.
sure. I don't
Anyhow,
know.
the saying that is here is, in war, truth is the first casualty.
Oh
I
yes.
thought you.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Again, these ideas that have been around for 2,500 years. Man, is that on point? You
Yeah.
can't get you. It's like the bombings of Iran. You can see pretty easily. Bombings of Tel Aviv, or or anywhere in Israel. Those are pretty hard to come by, even though the reporting is it's happening pretty consistently. It's just really interesting to me.
Well, and you have to, the fact is that you have to dig for any of those things, which to me is a little bit surprising. I mean, depending on which media you're on, right? So like I've been paying attention to the people, the financial people that are talking about oil, because obviously that's the big commodity and what it means,
Yep.
the shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, and are we in this, where are we at with that, and then the other people that are saying, and Trump saying, well, yeah, if they shut down the strait, we're going to be upset about that. We're going to, oh, they haven't seen anything yet. If they shut, well, they have shut down the strait. It's been shut down, but they shut down the strait, but oil hasn't accelerated in terms of that, in terms of cost in a sustained way. But at the same time, we just sunk 16 mine boats. But then the other day, we sunk the entire Navy. I mean,
Yeah.
just kind of keeping track of all this is impossible. I just am having a
Wait,
difficulty.
okay, so here's my question. Um, I remember I think I was a junior in high school, maybe even a sophomore in high school when Iraq invaded Kuwait and we had Operation Desert Storm.
Yes,
CNN was there on the beach to meet the SEALs.
yes.
I don't remember which country they landed in. It could have been Kuwait. It could have been somewhere. I don't know where it was, but that, like, CNN on the beach with cameras watching the Marines come, or the SEALs come on to swim onto shore.
Yeah, they're first. They're there first before the other
Yeah,
people. Yeah.
information was like it. Now, so here's my question. It felt to me like information was readily available and reasonably accurate.
Mhm.
Did you have that sense back then too?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's
my
trustworthy.
question is, were we duped back then? And it was always like a propaganda campaign, or has the landscape in media changed such that because of either government control or
Yeah.
media bias, where they decided we don't get the whole story now? One of those things has to be true, it seems like.
Part of me thinks that the media was not as sophisticated back then, and so they did as much duping as they could, but they weren't sophisticated enough to really spin the entire narrative and spin the entire story. Then now I think that it is the buttons that can be pushed in the public's mind and in the media narrative is so well understood that it's much easier to dupe people, which is exactly the opposite of how I would have predicted it would have been, because I would have thought
100%. Yeah.
quality of information today would make it much more difficult to spin a narrative. But in reality, the ability to analyze that information and come up with narratives that dupe the majority of people seems to be much easier now than it was back then. That's kind of the way that the intention was probably always there, but the capability now is just much more sophisticated, I think.
Interesting. Okay. So the intention was probably always there. You now I think about it, that's probably spot on. My thought before you said that was that the media's just been captured by Wall Street, by government, because the way it works in DC is, if you're a reporter for the New York Times or the Washington Post or whatever, there's like there's a relationship there. You release this thing I want released, and then I will give you more information when you want it, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, right? Um, so whether it be through that or just the shareholders, BlackRock or whatever, not wanting certain narratives out there, that was kind of my belief. But I guess your argument certainly has some merit there. I think what is happening though is it left a vacuum of fact-based reporting
Oh,
and
sure.
uncomfortable reporting, which is being filled now just by different players. Like it's
Yeah.
not CBS News anymore. Now it's, you know, whatever the kid who made the video of the stuff in Minnesota, like Nick, whatever his name. The vacuum's being filled, but it's not the players I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that the challenge then is the part of what I hoped would happen has happened in the sense that we can have citizen journalists now. Uh, but the problem is digesting all of the volume of
The
citizen
volume, yeah,
journalism that's necessary in order to really get an understanding of what's actually happening is so monumentally large that
yeah.
laziness says, I'll just go back to Fox or CNN or MS Now or whatever. And that's the problem with it, I think.
And it's the volume of the citizen journalism that you have to and you have to weed through the bigger volume of traditional media. It's just over. You only have so many hours in a day.
Well,
You
yeah,
just
and therefore those that would manipulate media depend on that and
yeah.
depend on, and I think it's like, even if you take, I'll give you another example, a little bit out there, the Air Force, when they started Project Blue Book around UFOs back in the 70s, their desire was to push so much junk out there that it would just
Yep.
be,
Yeah.
debunked. Well, now that same thing can apply to whether it's war in Iraq or whether it's what's happening in any particular state or Homeland Security being shut down. Just push so much junk out there that nobody has the time for it, and therefore we can just hopefully it'll go back to one of our outlets that we control, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, have you been listening to your favorite Senator Lindsey Graham?
I catch a little bit of him. I haven't caught much of Lindsay this week. No, I haven't. I haven't heard much of him this week.
I think this is from Monday. It'll take me a second. I assumed you'd heard this, so I wasn't going to play it. But let me pull it up here
Don't
because
think.
the it's only about 15 seconds, but the audio is definitely worth it to make the point. Um, let's see here. Computer's pulling it up. Hold on one second here. This is him, I believe, talking to like Sean Hannity or something. It's I think it's I'm almost positive it's Fox News. Yep. Okay. There's the signal saying it's Fox News, so it definitely is. I'm pulling up my screen to share it now, but here he's talking about what's going on in Israel, and there's like a 15-second clip. Oops. One zoom. There you go. There you go. Okay. And I'll get the sound on. Okay, here we go.
All the anti-Semites, to all the isolationists, I don't believe. Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander-in-chief in President Trump, who I think is Ronald Reagan plus, plus, plus.
So the key thing there is I'm with Israel. I'm not with you.
Mhm.
He's talking to his constituents here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
to the people who would be calling his office saying, I don't agree with you. He's literally saying to his constituents, I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I'll be with him till my dying day. Is that the right message, Dave, for a senator?
That's not the right message for a senator. I mean, what he would be better off if I give him the benefit of the doubt. If I give giving him the benefit of the doubt would say they're our best ally in the Middle East. Therefore, I think this is smart. The way that he
Yep.
spun that, though, and the way that he spun that leaves it open for interpretation to like, well, are they the biggest contributors to your campaign, or are they the best in the Middle East, or are they both? I mean, so yeah, that wasn't yeah, that
And
wasn't
in
that's
that interview, I haven't timestamp checked it myself, but uh I saw that he was given 6 minutes uninterrupted prime time Fox News to go on his tirade.
oh
Where
really?
do you ever see anybody get 6 minutes interrupted
Wow.
to make their point? Like I thought that was really, I mean, 6 minutes it seems like nothing, but when you figure that the average person who goes on those things gets what, 90 seconds, a
Sure.
minute, 2 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, there's millions of impact on millions of people in just that very short period of time because they come and they go. So yeah, that's prime
That
time.
certainly feels like maybe not coordinated like scripted, but coordinated in that they allowed that the Fox News allowed that time for him and knowing full well what his message was going to be. So they were certainly working in concert with each other. Not to say that it was like scripted out, but it's a coordinated effort. It feels like.
I'm sure that there is nothing that happens there in those primetime spots that's not fully, completely, pre-understood what's going to happen. Yeah, I don't think.
So if we believe that the news in media is not like it was in 1991 during Desert Storm, and either their intentions have changed, they've been captured, what is it they don't want us to see that they would rather us see that for 6 minutes instead? That's my question.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a good question, and we don't know because we haven't seen it.
I don't know. Yeah.
But that's also, I will tell you, that's also why on, you can't see it over here, but on this screen over here, I've got Fox News, and next to it I've got another window open with Google News. And so my daily consumption, and on my Google News one, I've got X, I've got Investment Live, I've got Breaking News.net. So I try to keep, back to our earlier conversation, I keep both of those things simultaneously next to each other so I can try to understand what's the tug of war that's going on.
Yeah.
What's actually the tug of war that's happening. And that often produces results that I don't know that either side, intends.
Yeah. All right. Well, unless you've got anything else,
Well, okay, I got to mention
what
one thing. There's one
I was
thing.
going to say, how do you think the Iran thing unfolds? But you can either take that on, or the other thing you want to talk about, or both, or however you want to
No,
do it.
there's one more important thing that we haven't mentioned. There's a video clip. I don't have it, but you should go look it up. It's the video clip of Bill and Hillary Clinton walking out, and Bill kind of pushing Hillary into the
Pushing
street,
her into the street.
and she's no, 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 and she's going no, no. I think that's where we should end today.
Yeah.
I think that.
I at first I thought you were talking about their testimony. Was it last week that they testified in front of the House committee or whatever
Oh, and then
on the Epstein
she
stuff?
blew up, and yeah, there's all that. No, I think this one was much more interesting to watch the interplay between those. I thought that was the best
Yeah.
of the week.
I don't have that video saved, so I can't show it, but it's certainly entertaining. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest for anybody
Entertaining.
listening
I
to
think
go
you should watch it.
a quick search you'll be able to find that.
Exactly.
All right, so wrap us up with Iran then. Like what's the end game here? What are we doing? Like we said we're doing regime change, and the IRGC, is that what's called, the IRGC?
Yeah, yeah,
They have 150,000 people in the IRGC that basically run Iran.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think we're gonna go through 150,000 people to be able to say we wiped out the decapitated them, as being said. So that the premise of what we're doing seems flawed already. 14 days or whatever it is in. What's really going on? What's going to be the resolution, you think?
The most I think the most likely outcome is that we've got 7 to 10 days left, depending on the price of Brent crude. So if you
Yeah.
want to know what's going to happen in the Middle East, watch Brent crude, watch the Strait of Hormuz, watch those two things. We've got 7 to 10 days left before. Regardless of what happens, within, I think, 7 to 10 days, Trump's going to declare victory. Okay, so that's whatever it is, whether it's we decapitate another 3 or 4 layers and we're down to the janitor in the Tehran market is leading the country now or something, or the janitor at the IRGC headquarters in Kharkiv, whatever. Yeah, I think that the meaningful outcome is that we don't have very much time left. I think we're being set up for the next news story being Cuba, and within maybe 7 to 10 days, the cameras move this direction a little bit more. We'll probably continue to have Pete Hegseth come on for the next 7 to 10 days and say, today's we're going to bomb them more than we did yesterday. And then on Friday, it's going to be Friday's more bombs than on Thursday. And we're going to keep, doing that for a little bit while longer. We're going to try and make them use up as many bombs as they got. And then we'll be on to other things in April.
Yeah. What there's a story circulating that it is probably conjecture, but there might be some fact to it. Who knows? That Trump is pissed at Israel because they bombed the either oil fields or refineries or whatever, some mechanism to do with actual oil production or extraction or refine. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we're entirely on the same page, although it could have been an accident. Who knows, right? I'll never know that stuff, but it doesn't feel. It feels like there's already a bit of a rift, or maybe not. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think we were always probably about at best 70% aligned. Uh,
Okay.
with them, and that's not because I have any faith in any particular side in the equation, but just because I think the amount of moving parts in a scenario like this, in a place in that part of the world, and with players, all the Arab states and Iran, and I just think it's too complex for there to be much more than that level of coordination. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all. I believe there's probably been a number of times where Trump and Netanyahu were at odds with one another. Trump's always going to win because he's the big dog, so that's always up happening. And I think after all is said and done, Trump is going to, I just think it's inevitable. I would bet money on this that Trump's going to declare victory. And I don't know, again, 7 to 10 days is where I would put the betting market. That's where I would say. Now, maybe it's 3 weeks. It's no more, because the most important factor in the Iran war are the midterm elections here. That's the most important factor. And
or the price of crude, because if that goes too high, then
but the price of crude is a subset to the midterm elections.
Okay, all right.
It's all just all of this is a subset to the midterm elections, and therefore Trump has got to declare victory before and have enough and be able to put enough pieces on the board to say that he did win, and to cut commercials so that the people that he wants to win in the midterms win. That's the equation. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that none of us could ever possibly know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. So we will declare victory, which means we're going to stop bombing, right? We're going to say we've done mission accomplished, like the George W. Bush on the carrier or whatever, mission accomplished. It's going to be a version of that. That is fine for the behaviors and actions we control. It's not fine for the actions Iran controls or their sympathizers.
That's right.
There are people here who are probably in sleeper cells. There are ships that are going to be going through the Strait of Hormuz. There are allies of ours that Iran's be pissed at. I don't necessarily believe that they're going to say, "Oh, well, thank goodness they said mission accomplished and we're done." It feels to me like it's very likely, if not inevitable, that they are just going to continue doing things now that we've opened the hornet's nest.
Oh, totally. I mean, well, take a look at the only reason that wouldn't happen is if all of the back end stuff that we're doing convinces enough people that they can depose the IRGC, or can convince 20% of the IRGC to revolt, to take over the country. The only way that regime change happens is if enough IRGC people, or the Arkesh, the regular military, because they got two militaries. They got the IRGC and they got, I believe it's called the Arkesh, the regular army. If there's some kind of, and there is no doubt in my mind that there is a whole bunch of activity that we don't know and that we don't see, trying to get those two to go to war with each other, trying to get the Kurds to make a big enough of an incursion that, that is that outcome. If that outcome that we desperately want, I'm just a dude with a marketing company, but I can guarantee you that those are the things that we want to have happen, so that they don't force us to have boots on the ground by, keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed for the next 2 or 3 months, because that's what would get us to have boots on the ground.
What could we possibly do to keep this from spiraling out of control? I mean, once Iran's got it in their mind to do things, how do you put a lid back on that? I don't understand how that's going to work.
somehow get them to have a civil war. Somehow. I mean,
Okay, well,
somehow get the. I mean,
that
so
is our playbook. That's exactly our playbook. From going back to 1949 in Italy. That's how we do things, right?
look at the encouragement we've been giving the Kurds. Of course, now Turkey doesn't like that very much, right? Because the Turkey and the Kurds are like this. But if we now we are not arming the Kurds, we don't. At least we're not being told we're arming the Kurds. Maybe we're actually arming the Kurds, and we've got
Right.
Amazon's delivering M1 Abrams tanks over there on a daily basis.
Maybe they're just fighting from China or Iran. I mean, that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah. So it just seems to me that that Trump's going to declare victory. We want there to be, we do want regime change to happen, but it's not going to happen unless there's either a civil war, which could go worse for us than, it could go terribly wrong for us. We want the Kurds to take, maybe a chunk of the country. And it all comes down to the midterm elections, because if they're united, if Iran is still united after all this is done, then we got a mess on our hands. We've created a huge mess. And
Yeah.
what we can do about that. I don't even know. I don't have any idea what we can do about that. You got to get the Army and the IRGC to go at it.
I won't say we've awoken a sleeping dragon, because I don't look at it that way. But I do think we've put a big hole in the side of a hornet's nest, and we don't.
Yeah,
we're going to want to just walk away and say, okay, well, we're done with that, and they're not going to be done with that, and we've unleashed a whole new era of unspeakable things from all players involved, probably.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it's going
to be. That's
and who knows how it's going to cascade into Europe and Africa and like all the.
Yeah.
Who knows what new alliances will form and be dissolved and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, well,
I agree.
All right, well, it's not boring. I'll give it that. It's not.
You live in interesting times, wasn't that Mark Twain?
The days of talking about a thing in the 2008 election for 6 months or 3 months, like those days are over.
Boy, wouldn't that be nice to have that kind of rep?
The news cycle is. I think today the news cycle was about 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, as Dave said at the beginning, we'd love to hear where you think we got it right or where we got it wrong. We're trying to explain to future generations what it's like to live through this tumultuous time. I'm sure they're going to look back and wonder what the hell is wrong with us. We're trying to answer that question. So you can give us your thoughts on Unsilent or unsilentpodcast.com. Rumble has a great comment section. Until next time, this is Dave and Brian signing off.
Next week.
Do you want to be unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.